The internet is a vast archive of human confession, but buried within its threads are stories that were never meant to be found, secrets that slipped through the cracks and left only questions behind. Our first thread begins on a spring day in 2016. A user in a gaming subreddit posted a seemingly simple question. Why would dozens of Wi-Fi networks appear to be broadcasting from beneath a concrete slab? He explained that he was staying on a rural property in Hawaii and something felt wrong from the start. He'd noticed roughly 30 low-signal networks that all shared the same strength. At first, he dismissed it as normal interference, but then he realized the signals peaked at a single location, right over a concrete pad that served no obvious purpose. Curious, he downloaded a Wi-Fi analyzer and walked in circles around the property. The results were unmistakable. The signal grew stronger as he approached the concrete and weaker as he moved away. But there was something else. The network names themselves were changing every few minutes. He borrowed a thermal imaging camera and scanned the area. The concrete pad showed a distinct hotspot, warmer than the surrounding ground. He drilled several holes, some directly over the hotspot, others as controls. Then he filled them with water. Only the hole above the hotspot drained, the others overflowed. When other users asked about power sources, he mentioned nearby power lines that were disconnected from the grid. They ran toward a wealthy neighbor's steel building. He also noted that the entire mountain had been used by the military during World War II. Though no bases were officially recorded there, he had no doubt something existed beneath the surface. He posted photographs that deepened the mystery. One showed a multi-breaker electrical setup with conduits running under asphalt toward the signal's epicenter. Another revealed the drilled hole that kept draining. And then there was the bucket, a large container he said reminded him of how bodies are dissolved in Breaking Bad. When asked about the concrete's thickness, he reported it was twice as thick as surrounding slabs, reinforced with river rock, and nearly impossible to drill through. 2 feet from the hotspot, the heat became unbearable, like standing next to a composting bin, though the volcanic soil contained no organic matter. The thread took a darker turn when users asked if he could access the networks or identify their hardware. He couldn't crack the passwords, but he shared more observations. The neighbor's building had been constructed by questionable contractors. Large liquid tanks had been removed from the property, suggesting significant underground space. A municipal storm drain nearby had been replaced with a much larger one directly across from the property line, potentially an access point. He also reported seeing a truck making late-night trips, hauling broken concrete from neighboring trash bins. Then came the detail that unraveled everything. He connected his former boss's online account to an eBay seller with a strange name and highly suspicious feedback. The seller specialized in faulty hard drives and other broken electronics. Who buys defective hard drives? Before anyone could investigate further, the feedback was set to private. Someone knew he was watching. When confronted, the user replied that he was in a pretty good spot and that they wouldn't get him easily. Then he vanished from the thread. The eBay account later became entangled in internet conspiracy theories involving hidden networks and encrypted data. Some claimed the hard drives contained evidence of something far worse. The original user was eventually dismissed as mentally unstable. His old boss claimed he'd torn apart his own ceiling fan, convinced he was being surveilled. But paranoia isn't always delusion. Sometimes it's just early pattern recognition. Our second story begins with a post that lasted less than an hour before moderators deleted it. A user asked how to repair wall damage in a rented apartment, attaching a photograph. The image showed a blood splatter that made no sense for any ordinary accident. It was concentrated in a single area with a distinct impact point, a chip in the drywall at the center. This wasn't sprayed blood. This was the result of something striking the wall with force. The original poster was vague about how he'd been injured. His post history revealed he drank heavily most days. A month earlier, he'd written that his girlfriend left after cheating, arriving just before the engagement ring he'd ordered. Another user saved the deleted post and shared it with an online investigation community. When they began asking questions, the original poster blocked them, even though they'd never contacted him directly. No answers ever came, only silence and that single photograph. The third thread unfolded over weeks in 2016. A woman who called herself Random Girl to You lived alone in a large house in a tiny community of 400 people. She didn't lock her doors except when sleeping. That was normal there. Then she found a tooth on her bedroom floor, directly in front of the door to her porch. It hadn't been there hours earlier. She ran her tongue over her teeth, checking for gaps. None. The tooth wasn't hers. Online commenters suggested a squatter. She resisted the idea until she started cataloging other strange occurrences, missing items, objects moved, small things that could be explained away individually, but together formed a pattern. Against every instinct, she decided to investigate alone. She noticed a smudge near her attic opening. Too afraid to climb up immediately, she sat in silence, listening. Nothing moved. The next day, she returned with a taller ladder and a better flashlight. Peering inside, she saw objects scattered about. No person, but someone had been there. The items she found included 8 beer koozies, personal belongings that had gone missing, a pile of change, and a $20 bill. Law enforcement became involved. Prints were lifted, evidence cataloged. She was told someone had been visiting her attic for a very long time, and crucially, only when she was home. This was no ordinary squatter. This was a stalker who had been living in the space directly above her bedroom. She installed new locks. She started locking doors even during the day, but the damage was already done. While the investigation continued, she received unsolicited, explicit photographs. No one ever confirmed who sent them. Then came the evidence safe. Inside were 2 large pickle jars. The intruder had been using them to collect himself. There were thousands of tissues, maroon socks, toilets, and her own clothing that had been missing for over a year, including underwear. The timeline became horrifyingly clear. This man had been moving through her home while she slept, taking what he wanted, leaving evidence of his obsession in the space directly above her head. The call finally came. They'd caught him. The nightmare was over, but the identity shattered her completely. It was her 70-year-old neighbor, married for decades, a church deacon, father of 4, grandfather of 6. The monsters we imagine are strangers. The ones we get are the people next door. Our final story comes from a deleted account in the Let's Not Meet subreddit. A teenage boy in rural North Wales, bored with countryside life, decided to explore with friends. They found a bridge where train tracks ran along the coast. Near it, a manhole cover. They pried it open and climbed down, not knowing what waited below. The passage was narrow, forcing them to squeeze through spaces never meant for human passage. At the halfway point, they could see the road below through gaps in the floor. That comfort faded when one of them spotted something at the far end. They kept going. The user reached the end first. What he saw stopped him cold. A single folding chair faced the wall. On the wall hung a torn magazine page, a nude woman in an erotic pose, but her eyes had been cut out, removed with something sharp. Below it, on the floor, lay a used condom stained with blood. They ran. They crawled and scrambled back through that suffocating passage, certain that at any moment they'd meet whoever left that scene behind. When they reached the ladder, they prayed the manhole was still open. It was. They climbed out and never spoke of it. Not to police, not to parents, just buried it. Years later, the user admitted they should have reported it. That space wasn't just someone's hiding spot, it was a shrine to something broken and dangerous. They returned to the location multiple times, hoping to find answers. Eventually, they stopped. Some questions, they realized, are safer left unasked. These threads remain open, their final entries written years ago. The users moved on, or vanished, or were dismissed, but the stories endure because they touch something we all recognize, the feeling that beneath the ordinary surface of things, there are spaces we were never meant to find, and people who use them. If these stories unsettled you as much as they did me, show your support. A like helps these narratives reach others who need to know what hides in the margins. And subscribe to Winds of Thought so you never miss the next descent into the unknown. Stay aware, stay curious, and maybe lock your doors.